Emily, and today I'm here to bring you another recent reads video. I've got 3 books to talk about, so let's just get right into it. The first book that I finished for nonfiction in November was The Lady from the Blackwood Dude, Hollywood Monsters and the Lost Legacy of Milicent Patrick by Mallory O'Mara. This is sort of a dual-pronged narrative. It's partially the biography of Milicent Patrick, who was an animator and then later a makeup and special effects designer in the film industry during the 1940s and 50s. And then it's also Mallory O'Mara's quest to find out more information about Milicent, because Milicent sort of disappeared abruptly from the film industry, and there wasn't much information about what had happened to her. And Mallory became interested in her life because Mallory is a film producer that works predominantly in the horror film, the horror movie industry, and so she had always considered Milicent to be sort of a role model for her, and so she really wanted to learn more about her. So Mallory begins in California, which is where Milicent grew up and spent her life, and she goes around to different archives. She goes to different places that Milicent lived and different places that she worked, and she sort of gathers information, and eventually she makes contact with some family members of Milicent, and she begins to really dive deep into Milicent's life. Milicent actually had a pretty fascinating life. She grew up at Hearst Castle, which is the big mansion of William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper mogul. She grew up there because her father was one of the architects on the building of the castle, so she spent her childhood there. She went to art school, and she later became one of the first female animators for Disney. And then she got into this makeup and special effects field and moved to Universal, which is where she created the creature of the Blackwood Dude. And then she was ousted from Universal due to the jealousy of a male supervisor, because Milicent was sent on a press tour for the creature from the Blackwood Dude and became, pretty famous. And the supervisor was very annoyed and wanted the fame for himself. So it's just very much the story of Milicent's life, and then also the story of Mallory's quest to find out more about her. Mallory also tells us a lot about working in the film industry. She talks about the sexism that she's experienced. She talks about her experiences with the Me Too movement, and she sort of compares, life in the film industry for a woman in Milicent's time versus, current day, and shows how they're really not that different, which is quite sad if you consider how much time has passed. This was a very interesting book. I will say that the writing is not the best. It's very simple in a way that, I found kind of annoying, but it didn't really detract from my enjoyment of the book. There's also a lot of footnotes in here, and sometimes the footnotes just seem really not necessary, and it seems like she's sort of talking down to the reader, and I'm like, most people that read this are going to have at least a basic understanding of, I don't know, it just seems like sometimes she was talking down to the reader, which got on my nerves a little bit. But overall, this was a great book, and I definitely recommend it. I then read House of Dreams, The Life of Ella in Montgomery by Liz Rosenberg and illustrated by Julie Morstad. This is a juvenile biography of Ella in Montgomery, who was the author of Anne of Green Gables, along with a lot of other works. This is a very fascinating biography, and I was actually really impressed with this, considering it's a juvenile biography. Ella Montgomery had a very sad life. Her mother died when she was really, really young, and then her father basically abandoned her and moved to Western Canada. So she was raised by her very strict grandparents. So she had a very stifled childhood, and then she lived with her grandparents till she was 35, and then she got married, but her marriage wasn't very happy. Both she and her husband dealt with depression, and her oldest son was also having what was probably mental issues as well, and it was just a really sad life overall. It's actually amazing that she was so prolific, considering all the tragedy and all the hardships she was dealing with. She also was a teacher for a time, and she did work as a journalist for a year as well, but her predominant way of making a living throughout her life was, writing. And she actually had success pretty early on because Anne of Green Gables, she had to send it to a few publishers, but once she got it accepted, it was like her success was instantaneous. She blew up, and like the Prime Minister of Canada wrote her and sought her out and came to PEI to meet her because he loved the Anne book so much. And yeah, so this book was really good. I would definitely recommend it if you're interested in checking out, learning more about Ellen Montgomery's life, because yeah, it's a juvenile biography, but it gets real in there, and it tells you very bluntly about the tragedies and the things that were going on in Ellen Montgomery's life. It was just a really good book. I then read Becoming by Michelle Obama. I listened to this on audiobook, and then last night I decided to go ahead and read the last chapter in print just so I could get it finished. This is exactly what it's sounds like. It's Michelle's memoir. It starts with her life growing up in the south side of Chicago, talks about her time at Princeton and Harvard Law. She then got into corporate law in Chicago, which is where she met Barack. It talks about their courtship, their marriage, and then it talks about her life being a working mom and also balancing Barack's political career and dealing with, the girls and their growing up and all their activities. So it's a really, really good book. She narrates it herself, so it's a really good, listening experience. And it's a very, very modern book. I was telling one of my coworkers yesterday that I had read Barbara Bush's memoir a long time ago, probably 15 years ago. And this one, compared to that one, is totally different. It's crazy. She's very open about her and Barack's relationship, smoking pot in college, the bad stuff she did when she was a kid, how annoyed she is about, the way politics are going right now. She basically says that she despises Donald Trump in this book. And she says it tactfully, but you can tell that she really does not like Donald Trump at all, which, I read this over the election period, listened to it at night when I was stressing about the results, and so this was a very good antidote to all of that mess. But anyway, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend it on audio if you're a Michelle Obama fan, or just, a fan of strong women. Yeah, if you're a Republican, you're probably not going to read this. And I mean, she doesn't badmouth anybody except Trump. And even Trump is minor. As I said, it's tactful. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend it if you are interested. Currently, I'm reading The Night Tiger by Yangsze Choo. I just started this morning. This is actually my book club's book for the month. But it's kind of weird because we already met and I hadn't read the book at all, because there was sort of a debate about when we were going to meet. And then last night, one of the ladies got on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I finished. Does anybody want to talk about the book?" And several other ladies were like, "Yeah, I'll get on." And I actually saw it about 20 minutes after she posted that, and I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll get on and see if they're actually in there." And they were. And by the time I got on, they'd already discussed the book, and they were talking about politics and, other stuff like that. So we didn't actually talk about the book. And actually, the lady that started the meeting was the only one that had actually finished the whole thing, as far as I could tell, and the rest of us had either not started it or had only read some of it. So it sounds like we're going to meet. When we meet again in December, we're going to talk about this book again, and also talk about our December book, which is The One and Future Witches by Alix. Harrow. So yeah, this is going good so far. I've only read the first 2 chapters, and both of the chapters were really short, but it sounds like it's going to be a good read. The lady that had read it last night at book club told me that it was a really fast read, and she thought I would fly through it, and I could definitely see that if all of the chapters are going to be this short. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving more into this. So that's all I've been reading lately. I have 4 more books that I want to finish in the month of November. One of which is my C.S. Lewis book, which I've been reading, 10 chapters or 10 pages a day. So I definitely think I will get that read, finished up pretty quick. The other 3 are, well, The Night Tiger is 1, and then I have 2 other books. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the rest of my November reading. I hope everybody else has been reading some great books for non-fiction in November, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!